Many years ago, my brother was driving home from college very late at night, early in the morning after finals or midterms from Michigan to Illinois. He's in the middle of nowhere and is getting drowsy. He dozes off for a second, then wakes up to someone saying wake up or stay awake behind him. Not screaming or anything, just what you'd say to someone if you were in the car with them. He looks in the rearview mirror and there's a girl sitting there. He looks at the road and looks again in the rear view and turns around. She's gone. A mile or two later, he drives past a cross and all these flowers on the side of the road. He's wide awake for the rest of the way home. Come to find out later, a college girl fell asleep one night while driving there. She fell asleep and went off the road and crashed and passed away. That is actually so sad. I was in a dead sleep on my couch when I got woke up by wailing and screaming on the front porch of my apartment building. It was my neighbor and some cops. The conversation happening outside my living room window was he had taken shrooms and also had a pew-pew in his apartment, and he admitted to wanting to blast through the walls then himself, so he called 911 and turns himself in. We shared a wall. His ass wanted to shoot all his neighbors. He was put on a gurney and taken to the hospital in an ambulance. I think he came home 2 or 3 days later, if memory serves me. I heard his door opening a lot, so assumed he was home, and shortly moved out afterwards. We only spoke maybe 5 or 6 times in the 7 years he lived on the other side of my living room wall. Okay, wait, I'm confused. So he wanted to pew-pew through the wall and unalive his neighbor at the same time? I don't really get that one. Okay, moving on. When I was little, around 8, I hated going to the dentist. He always made me uncomfortable for some reason. I remember thinking his smile stretched too far and seemed forced, like clowns. Anyway, my mom always came with me and went back so I wouldn't be scared. One day, my dad had me, my parents were divorced, and he had to take me to the dentist. They tried to make me go back alone so he could sit in the lobby doing whatever. The assistants had to literally drag me back to the room, and you could hear me screaming and crying down the hall, refusing to sit in the chair. Finally, my dad came back to get me. Irritated, I'd made a scene. He rescheduled my appointment to when my mom would have me, and we just left. He made a big deal about how bad I was acting and told my mom she was spoiling me and all sorts of shit. 2 weeks later, it's on the news that my dentist was charged with child porn after essaying children under anesthesia and photographing it. I lived in a small college town and my apartment complex was walking distance from the bar downtown area. One weekday night, I stepped out on our front porch to smoke a cigarette or two. I was up late studying. I brought my textbook with me and sat down on the stairs while I smoked. A girl who I had never met but who lived one apartment over but down on the ground floor came home from downtown. She was by herself and you could tell from her walk she had been drinking. She got in her apartment and barely got the door closed before some guy who came out of nowhere knocked on her door. She opened and I noticed he introduced himself, which was weird because it was after 2:30 a.m. Who comes to a strange girl's apartment at that time? So I decided to stay outside and pay attention. They ended up talking for over 10 minutes. She later acknowledged how weird the situation was but did not know how to end the conversation. He would do the creepiest things, like he reached up and stroked her hair at least 3 times and would try to slowly inch his way closer to her and the door. I made a point of being loud with my textbook so he would know I was there, and he disappeared as eerily as he had come. We called the cops, and days later, they had the girl and me sit with a sketch artist. As soon as the sketch was made public, floods of calls came in. Guy turned out to be a serial rapist who followed lone girls home from bars and pretended to be a cab offering them a ride. This girl just got lucky because she lived so close to the bars. He didn't get a chance to pull that cab routine. And that is why you don't open the door for strangers. When I was little, my mom would take me to Kmart and let me wander around the toy section while she shopped. Normal in the 70s. One day as I was playing Simon Says, an old man walked up to me and was making small talk while I played. He eventually told me to come with him and took me by the hand. We walked right down the main center aisle of the stores towards the exit sign in the back. As we crossed the last row, I looked to the right and saw my mom at the end of the row. I told him I saw my mom and had to go. I pulled away my hand and ran down to her. I didn't tell her what happened because I didn't want to get in trouble for going with a stranger. It was several years later that I realized that I had probably narrowly avoided being kidnapped or worse. In a cold winter night in a remote village from Quebec, Canada in 1990, me and my 2 brothers were asleep. We were 1, 3, and 6 years old. In the middle of the night, someone entered our house without knocking, walked around, and was talking to himself. Our house is 2 miles from the village in a rural area. My father woke up, went to the living room where the guy was. He had a car accident 1 mile from our house with his buddy who passed away instantly, and his scalp fell in front of his face. So the first time my father saw him, he saw a man with no face. He was drunk and his body was frozen. He was speaking to himself. The fact that his face was partially frozen might have saved his life, preventing him to lose too much blood. My father took him to the hospital, and he did survive. That is freaking crazy. Went camping with some friends on a hill a few kilometers out in the woods from one of the guys' houses. There's a few hiking, four-wheeling trails in the area that lead up to the hill, so it's known by locals. It was about midnight, we had a fire going, and we were just sitting around having a good time. Then the guy, there was 4 of us, sitting opposite of me, yells, "Who are you?" I turn around and there's this man about 6 feet tall staring at us from the edge of the woods with a big rock in his hand. One guy knocked an arrow in the compound bow we had. The guy across from me grabbed the hatchet and I pulled the knife off of my belt. We had no clue what we were doing, but the guy wouldn't say anything to us. He eventually just backed into the woods. No sleep was had that night and we kept a very large fire going. We were partying at a usual party spot by the river and some dude came out of the woods. He just kept saying weird shit like, "You gotta watch yourself down here. There are some bad folks around here." And when asked who he was, he just said, "I'm nobody." We were all a little sketched out and basically told the guy to fuck off. A couple days later, a girl went off the rope swing there and got really fucked up. Someone put fishing hooks all over the bottom of the rope swing and it took chunks of flesh out of her leg. Later, we found out the dude was just a guy that lived nearby, and although a creepy drunk, he was harmless. There was a fucked up, probably inbred family that lived up the road that he would warn people about. About 5 years later, last year, they beat some kid up with a log and kidnapped some girl at Pew Pew Point and took her on a joyride. That sounds like wrong turn. Once I was walking my dog in a park in London, Ontario. There are houses that sit on the edge of the park and back onto the Thames River and hiking trails. It was a pretty hot day and my dog was thirsty, so I brought him to the river to drink. We got down to the river and we were behind a house with a large privacy fence that sat on the edge of the park. While my dog was drinking, I heard loud banging noises coming from the backyard like a hammer. I thought somebody was building a shed or something. All of a sudden, the hammer stops and a man says, "Shut up, nobody knows you're here." And the banging began again. I froze in fear and then ran up to the bank back into the park. I was now directly beside said creepy house. A man came out of the backyard in fatigues with a rusty old wheelbarrow, heading towards 2 quintessential kidnapping vans parked in front of his house. He noticed me looking at him as I was walking past, set down the wheelbarrow, and just stared at me until I was out of the park. I called the police when I got home, and I still have no idea what happened. Eek, that's scary. Last year, a guy came to my house's door around 9 p.m. He knocked and I got my mom and she went out to see what was up. By the way, we live in a very rural area, so visits that late are extremely uncommon and strange. The guy talked to my mom about how he was opening a business, asked whether she liked American-made products, then handed her a Clorox container as a sample. He went back to his minivan and opened it to get a vacuum cleaner when my mom saw 5 other men sitting inside. She told me to run and get my phone since we don't have a landline. I couldn't find it, so I got my knife and stood around the corner. She threw the container outside and told them to get the hell off of her property, as well as she was calling the cops. They peeled out of the driveway and we never saw the car again. That is so scary.
Since everybody telling they scary stories about spirits and stuff like that, let me tell y'all about the time I came face to face with a mimic from the theater that I volunteer at. So boom, listen, I'm gonna do this all in one take. So I volunteer at a community theater, and that motherfucker haunted. There's something in that basement that does not like me, and I do not like it. I stay away from the basement. I can't stand the basement. I refuse to go into the basement alone. I would never go into the basement alone. Why? Because that thing that is in the basement makes me feel like it wants to hurt me. I don't have no problems with it, and I stay away from it. He has his problems with me. I don't know what they are, but, you know, it might be because I'm black. Anyway, so there's one night we were staying late from rehearsal. There was me, the stage manager, and my 2 best friends. So I'll name Madison and Jacob. Girl, hey, how y'all doing? I'll tell y'all in the video. Y'all can confirm that this shit happened. Okay, so Me, Madison, and the stage manager, and Jacob, we're all having a kiki. We're cleaning the stage. We're sweeping them up and doing shit. We're having a fun time. We're minding. We're just being. We're just being. We're just being. We end up talking about the ghost stories that they tell during the ghost tour, and the story about the lavender lady in the theater. She comes up. Now they tell the story pretty prevalent. Prevalent is the word? I don't know, but they tell the story a lot. Now, as the story about the lavender lady going on, the stage manager, something reminded her that she needed something from the basement, and she asks Jacob. She's like, "Hey, Jacob, I need something from the basement. Can you go downstairs to grab it?" Jacob's like, "Hell no, I'm not going down there by myself. What if there's an axe murderer?" That's exactly what he said. I swear to God, that's exactly what he said. And then she was like, "Well, take Marquis." And he was like, "Well, Marquis," I was like, "No, I'm not going down there. You know I don't like that basement. That basement don't like me. I'm not going down them stairs." Long story short, Jacob ended up bribing me with a damn tequila sunrise, and I ended up going anyway. Like a dummy. So we end up going downstairs, and we end up finding what we're looking for. And as we are about to leave the damn prop room, we see this figure standing in the doorway. We both look, and in unison, I swear on my granny ashes, we say, "Ow!" at the same time. Because it was just standing there, solid figure. It dips off, it disappears. We run up the stairs. We both out of breath. We sitting here talking about some, yeah, bitch, we're not going back downstairs. No. They ask what happened. We tell Maddie what happened, and Madison's like, "What are you going to do if it follows you?" I'm like, "I wish this motherfucker would follow me." And that's my problem right there. I sat here and said, "I wish this motherfucker would follow me." Yep, I do too much of this. I need to learn how to stop. So we end up talking our shit, leaving. I end up home. Get home. It's the dead of fucking winter. Julian's at work. My fiance's at work. So I get in the house. First red flag that Oh, hell no. See, even talking about this shit scaring me. So I get home. First red flag should have been my fucking bedroom door was open. I don't never leave my bedroom door open. I have a cat that likes to claw stuff up. He's not allowed in here without supervision. Second red flag, he was still in the living room. That's how I know. That's how I should have known something was wrong. Bedroom door was open. My cat was still in the living room. He wasn't in my bedroom. That should have been the first red flag. So I hear my fiance's voice come out of my bedroom. And he's like, "Hey, babe, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, babe, I'm doing good. I'm going to come give you a kiss, but I got to use the bathroom first." I go to the bathroom first, and it's still talking to me. The voice is still talking to me. I don't see where the voice is coming from, but I know it's coming from my bedroom. So I'm in the bedroom, and I'm talking. He's talking. It's talking. Whatever the fuck it goes by. It's still having a conversation with me. We're literally, I'm like enthralled in this conversation, having a full intellectual conversation, explaining my day, how it went. I even told him about the mishap one of my residents had. And I kid you not, as I crack the bathroom door open, because like I can't hear because it starts to get a little muffled. So I'm like, "Babe, I'm going to crack the bedroom door." Hold on, say that again. I open the bathroom door just a little bit. And I'm so deep in my phone on on Royal Match. I'm not trying to plug them, I swear to God. I'm playing the little Royal Match game, and I swear to God, I see the door open a little bit more than how I had it. And as I'm like talking, I see something like stand in the doorway. And I'm thinking that my fiance came to be fucking be a fucking weirdo, because like we play like that. So I'm thinking it's him. But I swear to God on my granny ashes, when I looked up, this creature, this being, this entity, whatever you want to call it, when I looked up, it had my fiance's face. But the only difference about my fiance that it didn't it had red and gold eyes. I swear on my granny ashes, bro, on my altar to Aphrodite, it had red and gold eyes, and it was looking at me. I couldn't do shit but scream. I legitimately screamed. Like it was a full final girl scream. Like it was just. It was like it was terrifying. Like I felt like my heart fell out of my ass. Like it was terrifying. And as like I scream, it runs, and then my fiance just so happens to come in, and he's like running towards me because like He hears me screaming. He thinks something wrong. He's like, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm like, that was not you? Was that not you? Oh my God, was that not you? And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, bro, there was something in the house, man. There was something in the house. Girl, I finished up using the bathroom. I had him check the house to make sure that I was not alone, like to make sure like it was gone. I called Madison after that to have her come to cleanse my house. I was so like I couldn't even focus on doing it myself. I had Madison come to my house and cleanse it, and I will tag her in the video, and she will literally confirm that this has happened. Like I was like, and even just thinking about it, I'm like, just thinking about it, and then like, it was like what really was like the scariest part about it was, it wasn't like a shadow, a masked shadow. It was like a solid human being. Like if you could see me, like that's what it was, and I did not sleep that night. Like I remember I didn't sleep that night. I ain't go, not for legal reasons, this is a joke, but I took one of Juju's Adderalls to go to work the next morning because I did not go to sleep. Like, it was so that was the most terrifying shit I have ever been through. But yeah, that's my scary story. That's my story with the paranormal. But I have a couple more. I could tell y'all about the time I had a dream that I danced with a demon.
We listen, we don't get scared, and we don't judge. Let me tell you guys, my friend's Blessa horror story. So this girl was a little bit older than me, you know. I was probably like 19, she was 23, and she was dating a 45-year-old man, right? Sharp. When everything started, it was all glitz and glam. It was beautiful. He used to give her money, all in the name of sleeping with her. That's all he wanted. No relationship, nothing. He used to give her money. He used to buy her stuff. If her phone broke, if she wants the latest iPhone, she gets it. If she wants the latest Steve Madden, she gets it. So it was nice. It was cute on photos, but crazy in the background. So this went on for like a year, you know, and they were doing this for like a year, and I was also getting the benefits because when she had money, she would call me sometimes and I would go to her. Hello. I wasn't judging her because even if I told her to stop, if she wanted to do it, she could do it, like she is an adult, you know? Until one day I did not see her for a good 2 weeks, and I thought, the first week I thought maybe she's on vacation with her man, because usually he takes her out on those. It could be a random Wednesday, and because she didn't work, she would go with this man and they would come back like the following week. Like, I was used to it. But the second week I was like, you know what, let me just go check on her because she doesn't really use her phone much sometimes, you know, let me just go check on her. So I knocked on the door. Her mom knew that I was her friend, and she was like, I was like, hey, knock knock, wait, so and so, you know the gist when you go to somebody's house. And her mom laughed a little and she was like, go to her room and see what's going on. I go inside the room, and when I tell you, I was met by a smell first, this horrible smell first, and I was like, you know, and her mom was right behind me and she didn't say anything, and I was like, what is in here? You know, it smelled like a decomposing body. Okay, I've never smelled a decomposing body before, but people say that the smell is really terrible. You know, it's something that you've never smelled before. I walk inside the room and I see that there's somebody on the bed, thin as hell. So I'm thinking, is that her? Like, that can't be her. She was not that thin. I seen her 2 weeks ago. When I walk closer and closer, the smell is getting worse. It's a smell that's just coming out of her body. She smells like a dead person. Also, she's facing the other way, you know. So when I get there, I'm like, and her mom is like, don't be scared. She's like, so-and-so, your friend is here to see you. She turns around and she looks at me and she looks old. She's wrinkled. I don't know who this person is. So I greet her. I'm like, hey, like, I greet her in the most uncomfortable way, but I was trying to show her that I was trying to be comfortable, but I was uncomfortable and you could read it on my face. I speak to her, whatever, and I ask her what happened, and her mom leaves, and she's like, girl, do you remember that blizzard that I had? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, what happened? She's like, that man had a snake. The first 3 months of their relationship, she was sleeping with that man. But after that, the man introduced her to his snake and was like, listen, if you want your life to continue the way that it's continuing, you have to sleep with the snake, because if you stop, everything is going to stop. And also, you know, you are going to go back to the old life. Like, he was just convincing her. And she agreed. She agreed, and she was sleeping with the snake for a good year. When I tell you this was going on for a year, she slept with the snake for a good year. And on a random Tuesday, she says she started falling sick. She says on a random Tuesday, it started with a smell and she thought it was an infection. From infection, day by day, it kept on getting worse. She started getting thin. She started vomiting. They once took her to a hospital and this blesser paid for her fees. She lied and said she had a medical aid, but this blesser continued to fund her even though she was like this. I feel like he knew exactly what he did. He knew. And she says she was at the hospital the week before, whatever. And she flips over the cover that she had on. Woo! The smell that came out, that was just worse. And then there were worms that were coming out, green maggots. I've never seen a green maggot in my life, and I saw it coming out of her. It was horrible. It was scary. They were literally coming out of her hoo-ha. Like, I went like this and I could see. And I was like, bro, what is going on? Mind you, they were eating on her thighs. She says no matter what they try, nothing is happening. They went to prophets. They keep on giving her stuff. Nothing is happening. Like, she's been to at least five prophets in the last week, because when she came out of the hospital, I was like, girl, this is so damn traumatizing. And that's when I realized that when I walked in, her mom had lost a little bit of weight. It's because of this. And I was like, so what's going to happen now? And she's like, basically, she's just waiting for her death day, because they went to a witch doctor. So there are people out there in this world that specialize in strictly witchcraft. They don't do the healing people, and also they specialize strictly in witchcraft, and they heal people sometimes. So they went to him and he laughed. She says when they got there, he laughed and he threw the whatever. He didn't throw bones. He threw whatever he threw, and he told them that you have a few days to live. When you started dealing with this blesser, first of all, when he was sleeping with you personally, he was taking away your youth. When you were sleeping with the blesser, not the snake, right? He was taking away your youth. He was also taking away your blessings. And then when you started sleeping with the snake took a big bite. The blesser took a small bite. The snake took a big bite, and you didn't realize it. But these things were long happening, and you just didn't realize it because you were getting money. And so now that everything that they want from you is gone, and you look old, you have the stench, you have this, you have that, it's because they are done with you. The blesser may help you, but they know that your spirit was too weak. That's why you're where you are. So they told her, like, the guy told them that there's nothing that he can do. If other people that you guys went to failed, what do you think I'm gonna do? Because I deal with these things. Obviously, you see people, they never tell you the consequences of the things that they're doing. And so, yeah, when I tell you, I spoke to that girl that day. Let's say it was a Wednesday. By Friday, I heard the news that she was no more. And to think that I felt a little guilty, that maybe if I had put a little bit more pressure, she wouldn't be where she was. But yeah, that happened. That is crazy. If you're a girl in high school and you think that this blessed life is all glitz and glam, it is not. Nobody's going to tell you the bad of what's going on. They're just going to be showing the Gucci sides because they act like they're working. Auntie, they have blessings in the background, and maybe their spirits are strong, or they go to strong prophets, witch doctors, whatever. Watch out before you do things, because these things of people having snakes and stuff is very much real.
Get unready with me while I tell you about how I lived in the most haunted house and next to literal witches for 10 years. Let me explain. I moved to South Carolina when I was about 2 years old, and we found this really cute house at a really good price. And so we were like, hey, it's cold in the north. We need to move down south. This is a nice house. It was a nice neighborhood. And we were like, let's do it. This house seemed perfect at the time. It was big. It was pretty. The neighborhood was nice. There was a pool in the neighborhood. And the people around seemed really friendly. So everything was good. However, very quickly, we started realizing there was a lot of weird stuff happening at this house. Literally so many creepy things happened that I could probably make like 10 story times, but I'm going to try to tell you guys just the most interesting ones that I remember. Because again, when we moved here, I was 2 years old, so I don't really remember things happening until I was about 6. So the very first thing that happened, I don't remember because I was 2, but my family has told me about. So apparently while we were literally moving in, bringing boxes into the house, my brother saw a woman standing in the laundry room. Obviously there was not an actual woman there. And my parents were like, okay, like stop making up stories. He was probably 8 at the time. And then my dad went on to see that exact same woman like 2 weeks later. I'm gonna go in chronological order of the things that I remember happening, but there's a lot, so I may have to make like more stories or more parts if y'all want to hear about all of it. Okay, so for the next story, I am 4 years old at this point, and my mom is a nurse. That's kind of a key detail here. So because she was a beginning nurse, they would give her really weird hours and really weird shifts. This happens to a lot of nurses when they first start. You get kind of the crappy shifts. Well, there was one point in time where she would get off of work at like 11, which was a really weird thing, and it was 11 at night. So I was asleep and my brother was asleep because, mind you, I was 4 and he was 10. So there was one point where my mom came home from a really late shift. It was like 11:30. Sorry, I like messed up my words. So me and my brother are both asleep upstairs, and the bathroom that we all share is the upstairs bathroom, and it is connected to my room. That's a key detail. We use this one because my parents slept upstairs for a lot of my life because me and my brother were young and they wanted to be near us in case we needed them. So we all used that bathroom. Well, my mom had gotten home from work and she went to go take a shower. And she said that she was in the shower and she kept hearing a little girl giggling, like right outside the shower. And she was not like tripping, like she knew what she heard. However, she wasn't like scared because she literally thought it was me because this bathroom was connected to my room and she thought I just like woken up and was like peeking in at her or something and like giggling. So she literally pulls the curtain and says, "Sadie, stop." And there's nobody there. That story is so creepy to me to this day because a little girl giggling while you're in the shower late at night and everybody's asleep? No. No. Okay, next one. I'm probably 7 at this point when we get some new neighbors. These people are so weird. Like, mind you, this is a normal neighborhood. These people were not normal. These people were the kind of people who did not keep up with their house at all, which, you know, sometimes that's just how it is. But these people, they would never come outside. Like, we never saw them outside, and they were self-proclaimed witches. They would practice witchcraft in their house. And if you're like, okay, let them do what they want, yeah, it's fine. That's their life. They can do that. But apparently when they got moved out of their house, it got foreclosed because I guess they weren't paying money for it. The, like, wood of the floor in the house, they had carved a pentagram in. Yeah. And we lived right next to them. Anyways, shortly after they moved in, and I don't know if any of this is connected to them, I'm just saying, like, they're over here casting spells, my house is super haunted. Maybe a correlation, I don't know. Also, we lived right next to a pond, and I know that, like, water has something to do with all of that. Again, I don't really know any of this. I'm just, like, what I've heard. Anyways, I was about 7 years old when this next thing started happening to me, my brother, and my dad. We would wake up every single night, and we would see in the corner of our room a dark, like, tall shadow man with a top hat and 2, like, white glowing eyes. This one scares me so much. I haven't seen this in years, but sometimes when I'm in bed at night, I'll look in my corner and I'll just be so scared that I will be seeing this thing because I saw it so much of my life as a kid. And me and my brother and my dad all saw it in that house for years. I don't know what it is. It never did anything. It just stood there and watched. Creepy. Okay, this one happens when I'm about 8 years old. So me and my brother had just gotten into a fight, like we were pushing each other, screaming, you know, sibling fights. And every time we would get into a fight, I would yell down the stairs for my mom to, like, tattle on him, obviously. So I remember we went to, like, the edge of, like, there was, like, a railing where the stairs was, but you couldn't see the downstairs because it kind of, like, curved and then went downstairs. So we would yell down the railing, but you couldn't see who was, like, standing on the downstairs, if that makes sense. This one, like, shakes me to my core to this day because we know what we heard. We yelled downstairs and we're like, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom," trying to get my mom. And she said, like, "Yes, like, what is it?" And we started explaining, like, what was going on. I was yelling, he was yelling. And then my dad is like, "What are y'all talking about?" And I'm like, "Dad, we're talking to Mom." We're talking to Mom. And he goes, "Mom left for work an hour ago." Me and my brother look at each other like we have just been, like, terrified. Like, we look at each other like, because we heard my mom's voice yell to us. We were talking to my mom, and she had been gone. That is terrifying. Now, buckle up, because this one is probably one of the scariest ones. So this one didn't happen to me. It happened to my brother, but we were both still pretty young. But at this point, he was probably about 12 years old. So we had all gone to sleep for the night, and he was asleep in his room when he suddenly woke up in the middle of the night, unable to move. So sleep paralysis is obviously what happened. He said that he was laying in his bed, he couldn't move, he couldn't scream, but he could see. Like, his eyes were open and he was awake, but like his body, he couldn't move. Anyways, he says while this was happening, in the corner of his room, this like shadowy creature thing came up and like was towering over his bed, and it felt like, he said there was like a weight on his chest is what it felt like. Then he said that his bed started shaking. He said this went on for like 4 minutes before he could finally like scream and get up, and he ran straight to my parents' room. Obviously, when he explained it to my parents, they were like, oh, you had sleep paralysis, you were probably dreaming, there's probably no one in your room, like this can happen. But he insisted that they went in there just to make sure and just to see for themselves. When they went in there, exactly the spots he said, the corner where the thing was, and then right over his bed, they said like the whole room was like probably like 70 degrees. When they walked in that spot, they said it was ice cold. The corner and the place by his bed where he said this thing was standing. Like, can you even imagine? Like, obviously something was there. And on top of that, the corner that the thing was standing in is the one closest to the witch's house. I don't know if that has anything to do with each other. Anyways, guys, there's so many more stories. Should I make a part 2? Because it gets so much crazier. I just realized I did not get unready this whole time. Sorry, guys, I got locked in. Okay, guys, you asked, so here's part 2 of my super old haunted house and how I lived by witches for 10 years. First, I'm going to address some comments that were on the last video. Number 1, yes, I moved out. I've been moved out for quite a long time. We left when I was like 12. 2, are the stories all real? Yes, 100% real, I promise. I would not lie to you guys like that. And finally, why did it take us so long to move out? Great question. I was too young to even really like process that it was haunted, but I don't know why it took us so long to move out. That being said, let's dive right into part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you watch that first. Okay, so up first, I was about 7 years old at the time, and my dad was bathing my dog downstairs in the bathroom. He was home alone. I think that me and my brother and my mom were like out. Like, I think I was at dance and my brother was like at soccer or something, and my mom was like picking us up. So my dad was home alone with the dog. I'm starting out tame. He said while he was bathing my dog Yogi that somebody literally grabbed his arm. He said this one scared him like so much at the time because we've had experiences, but nothing has ever like touched us. And he literally said someone like gripped his arm. This one happened when I was a little bit younger. I forgot to tell this in the first part, but I should have because I was a little bit younger. I think I was like 5. But my parents said apparently every single day I would go in my room and talk to a little girl. And I'm not the type for imaginary friends. Like, I've never really been that much of an imaginative child. I literally swore I saw a little girl. And I remember one time in specific that I was sick and I was getting into the bath, and my dad was like bathing me because I was still really young. And I remember saying, "Dad, there's a little girl sitting on the bathtub." And I swear I saw one, but I don't know. Now, those were tame. Let's get into a way more scary one. One time when I was about 8 years old, my dad and my brother were downstairs by themselves, home alone, just them two, when all of a sudden they started hearing some noises, and I think they said they heard something like upstairs. So I think they went upstairs to like check it out. And as soon as they went upstairs, they heard a big bang, and all of our silverware, like we have a drawer for like our forks, knives, spoons, all that. The whole drawer was pulled out, and all this silverware was like all over the kitchen floor, and apparently all the other drawers were open. But the cabinets were closed, but all the drawers in the kitchen were open. Also, no, we didn't have any like animals that could have done this. My dog's really small, and it was like all the way up on the like counter where the drawers were, and it was completely like ripped out, and like silverware was everywhere. And no, nobody broke in, like the door was locked. So let's get even scarier. This happened when I was 2 years old. This one happens when my mom is a night shift nurse, and she was at work, and so it was just me, my dad, and my brother at home. We were eating dinner, and I was in my little like high chair, and my dad and brother were eating dinner with us, and we were downstairs like in the little, like the kitchen was here, and we had like a little table right here. So basically the way the upstairs worked was there was like this like, it's like a balcony, like you could see the upstairs from the downstairs like living room, and I don't know if that makes sense, but Just keep that in mind. Just go with it. I was sitting in my little chair, and apparently I had just learned to be like wave. Maybe I was like 1, because I feel like 2, like you're a little more advanced. Maybe I was 1, and I was looking at something and waving. So my dad was like, "Who are you waving at?" Like he looks to the upstairs where I was waving, because I was like looking up. He said as soon as he looked, all of our like motion detector lights outside went off. So then he's like, "What the heck? What is going on?" Because we also had a motion detector light upstairs that went off at the same time. Like all the ones outside and upstairs went off. So he's starting to he's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And my brother's sitting there, and he's like young too. And he's like, "Stay here, stay with your sister. Like, I'm going to look upstairs, see what's going on." Then he said some of the doors upstairs, like the knob started like wiggling around. At this point, my dad was so scared, he literally called my mom at work during her night shift saying like, "There is somebody in the house." Never figured out what that was. This one happens when I'm about 9 years old. What's 9 plus 6? My brother was 15 at the time. Well, in his room, he had like his old toys in his closet, and like he had like a truck at the top, like on the shelf of the closet, he had like a truck. At one point, the closet doors flew open. And not just that, that's not even where it ends. The truck in the closet, like, fell down. And it had been up there for, like, years. Like, nobody had played. Like, he was 15, and the truck literally fell down. Like, what? Not just fell, it, like, flew down. Also, this is just a little added bonus. I would wake up all the time with bruises. And my mom would, too. And I did do dance. So, like, I'm not sure if I was just a really, like, rough kid, but it would be, like, places I never remembered hitting or falling on would have, like, bruises. And, like, I've heard that kind of correlates to stuff, but then again, I could have just not have realized it. I have more stories about that house, but I'm going to make a part 3 if y'all want to about that. I'm going to give you guys a little preview about some things that have recently happened. So literally like last year, I found out that our old house, the one I've been telling all the stories about, was built on an Indian burial ground. So that could explain quite a bit of what was going on. Also, this is just so creepy to me. When we moved out, there had been a bunch of people who bought the house because obviously like it was a nice house. Like you look at it from the outside, it's a cute house, good neighborhood, good price. Every single family who has bought this house after us has not stayed in this house for more than like a few months. And there's been like 6 people who've moved in and out since then, which is just creepy to me. This story did not happen in my old house, but I do want to tell you guys because I thought it was pretty interesting and I feel like y'all will like to hear it. So this story takes place in Kentucky a few weeks ago. So I go to Kentucky every single year for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and because that's where my family lives, like my grandparents and all that. So we went back because that's where I originally lived also. We went to Kentucky just a few weeks ago for Thanksgiving, and something so creepy happened, and I just need to share. So I don't know if you guys know anything about Kentucky, but basically it is in the dead middle of the Appalachia Woods. Like specifically the place in Kentucky that my family lives in is literally like dead middle of it. And I don't know if you guys know anything about the Appalachia Woods, but apparently they're known for being very, very creepy. So I went to Kentucky for Thanksgiving with my family, and me and my little cousin were like, let's go over to my great aunt's house because she has a hot tub and it's cold outside and that would just be fun and like a little girls, like just two of us little moment. So we went over there, and she lives behind like all woods, and I've never thought anything of it. Like we go to the hot tub pretty often and never thought anything creepy would go on, but let me tell you what starts happening. My little cousin starts talking about the Appalachia children, and she was like, have you heard anything about like the Appalachia Woods, like people whispering and like whistling and stuff? And I was like, she had no idea that we were currently in the Appalachia Woods while she was talking about this. She's also the kind to get scared super easily, so I was like, no, I haven't really heard much about it, knowing dang well I have. As soon as she started talking about that, I kid you not, there's like this giant bush out, so it's like on her hot tub's on the screen and porch, there was like a giant bush beside it, starts rustling. So she was like, what was that? And I was like, oh, it's probably just an animal. Like, there's deer all around Kentucky. Like, it's probably a deer or a rabbit or whatever. She's like, okay. So we kind of keep talking about it, and then she goes and checks her phone. So I'm like by myself for a little second, and what do I hear in the corner of my ear? Somebody whispers my freaking name. I kid y'all not. I hear, say. When I tell you my head whips around, she literally was like, what are you looking at? Because she saw my head turn. She didn't hear anything. I obviously couldn't tell her what I heard, or she would have been terrified. So I was like, oh, just thought I heard something. Anyways, guys, that is all for part 2. Follow if you want part 3, and comment below if I should make a part 3. Also, guys, please don't be too worried about me. Ever since I moved into my house that I'm in now, nothing has happened, and I'm also a very big Christian, so hopefully all the scaries are gone.
I had a follower send me their mimic/doppelganger story, and it is terrifying. According to her, it all kicked off in 2021, and her husband would be gone a lot because he was in the military. He would be like out in the field for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and during those times, she would just feel a presence in her home. At the time, this really freaked her out because she was pregnant with their first child, their daughter, and so she would light prayer candles every single night before she went to bed. It would just give her comfort. And she would just leave them lit throughout the night. And one night she wakes up and they're all out. And she thinks it's weird, but she has to go to the bathroom. So she kind of just ignores it, gets up. And as she's going to the bathroom, she hears what sounds like a woman singing from her daughter's nursery, which is literally right next to the bathroom, like singing, humming. She said it sounded like a lullaby. The nursery at the time was just being used for storage because, of course, she was pregnant. When she leaves the bathroom, like rushing to her daughter's nursery, the humming is just getting louder and louder and louder, and it doesn't stop until she actually opens up the door. Obviously, there was no one there humming. And about 2 weeks later, her husband is home from the field. Well, her husband had just finished using the bathroom. He's kind of coming out to the living room, and when he sees her, he like jumps out of his skin. He's so scared. And she like laughs. She just thinks like maybe she startled him. And he says to her, "Did you just sit down there?" And she says, "No, why?" Like, she's on the couch with her cookies, she's under a blanket, she's comfy. And that's when her husband tells her that he just saw her walk into their daughter's room. And he was really confused when this happened because it looked just like her, except for some reason she had long black hair. Over the next couple of months, her husband swears this keeps happening. Like, he will see the back of her head, except it's never the back of her head. She just has this long black hair, but she's always wearing the same clothes, and it looks just like her. And she'll be walking into a room as he's kind of like walking past. In October of 2021, she gave birth to their first child, their daughter, and she found out shortly after that that she was pregnant with their son. And nothing happens until about a month after her son is born in 2022. And of course, it was one of those times where her husband was gone in the field and she's going to the bathroom. I don't know why the bathroom is attached to so many weird happenings in this place. But as she's in there, she hears a sound coming from her daughter's nursery. Now this is really concerning because when it happened the first time, she was pregnant with her daughter. Now her daughter like lives in that room. And so she immediately gets up from the bathroom. She's going down the hall to investigate. And it sounds like there's something tapping in her daughter's room. My cat has joined us for the story, but she goes into her daughter's room. She's like, "What is this tapping sound?" And that's when she realizes it's the blinds in her daughter's room, like hitting the window over and over and over again, as if somebody is sitting there and like moving them back and forth. She also then notices that her daughter is like upright in her crib. Her hair is a mess. Her daughter is like freaking out, crying. So she immediately scoops her daughter up. She takes her to the bedroom. She has her other child in there. Both of the babies are crying and screaming and everybody's freaked out. And she's on the phone with her in-laws like, what do I do? Her father-in-law comes to the home to come check things out, just make sure everything's okay. And of course, nobody's there. She's kind of like, "I'm sorry I called you out. I swear to you, I know what I heard." And shortly after this, that apartment, that place where they lived, actually got broken into. And so they immediately moved to a townhome, which is where the rest of this story takes place. She probably at this time wasn't thinking much about the paranormal activity and the weird mimic stuff from the last place because they're in a new home and she had bigger fish to fry. Like, their place actually got broken into. But she would sometimes notice that her daughter's closet light would be on when she would enter into the room, and she just would ignore it. She was like, "I don't really want to bring this energy into the new place. I'm not going to acknowledge it." Until One day, her husband calls out to her and he says, "Were you just watching me go to the bathroom?" And she calls back from the living room. She's like, "No, I'm on my phone. I'm watching YouTube in the living room." And he says, "I saw you again like last time, but this time you were peeking around the door at me while I was using the bathroom." And of course, she's freaked out because her husband just saw that thing again after so much time without any activity. And so she starts cleansing the space pretty routinely, and the activity dies down again. And once again, she's like, okay, we're in the clear. And then there's an incident where they have a bunch of guests over and her daughter drops a glass, and she decides to put her daughter into her room in this new townhouse just so they can clean up the glass and she won't get hurt on any of it. Her husband is like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. You stay with her." And so she stays in the room with her daughter. They're like laying on the floor playing with toys when suddenly her daughter sits up. And she's like a year and a half, 2 years at this point. And she lets out this blood-curdling scream while looking into her closet, the same closet where the lights had been coming on occasionally. And the original person who sent me this email doesn't know why. She walks around this room and she's telling whatever this is, like, "No, leave her alone, get out of here." Eventually, her daughter calms down. And at the time of sending me this email, she had said that her husband was leaving for 9 months. And she felt like the thing was going to act up again once he was gone. I didn't find this email until literally like today, and it was sent a year ago. So I'm going to email her back and ask if anything else happened. But in my original email, she asked for advice. So if you guys have any ideas for how to get rid of this thing, if she's still dealing with it, let her know down below. She'll probably read the comments. But yeah, this is such a terrifying mimic story. So what do you think? Stay spooky, friends. I have an update for the insane mimic story that one of my followers sent me, and it is so terrifying. If you didn't see the first part, I'm going to give you a quick summary. My follower had been experiencing what seemed like a mimic in multiple homes, something that sounded like it was humming from her daughter's nursery, something that presented itself to her husband as her, like as my follower, but with long dark hair. And it was all happening in one apartment that they then moved out of, and in their new townhome, it started happening too. And where we left off in part 1 was that at the end of that email that I was sent by my follower, she said that she was really nervous about her husband being gone for 9 months with the military because she felt like whatever this was waiting for him to leave. The problem is that she sent me that email a year ago and I just found it like last week. So I reached out to her and asked her for an update, and what she gave me is crazy. A month into her husband leaving for 9 months, I mean, she is just feeling really nervous. She said the separation anxiety is kicking in hard. One night, she wakes up around midnight, and when she wakes up, she was so hot when she was sleeping, there was like a puddle of sweat beneath her, but the house is freezing. And she's like, whoa, this is like way colder than it usually is. Not weird for her to sweat during the night, but it is weird for the house to feel this freezing. And she gets up from bed to go adjust the thermostat. And as she's going downstairs, she ends up falling down like 4 stairs. The weird part is that she hears something giggling after this from her daughter's room. She thought maybe her daughter heard her falling down the stairs and was like giggling at her. So she pokes her head into her daughter's room. Her daughter's dead asleep. And something I mentioned in the last video is that her daughter's closet light kept turning on its own. And when her mom looks in that closet, the light is on. She ends up lighting a prayer candle for her daughter, and as she goes to check the thermostat, it says it's 72, and she's just really confused why it is so cold in her house. She really just doesn't know what to do, and so she reaches out to someone she describes as a lovely medicine woman who practices herbalism. Basically, she gives her the rundown of what's going on. I think that the person who sent me this email also sells like crystals and stuff, so I think they're like business acquaintances. But anyways, this woman says that she's going to do a candle reading for my follower. And when the candle reading comes back, basically the herbal medicine lady is like, somebody put evil eye on you. She ends up doing some things, including an egg cleanse, and eventually gets like 6 months of reprieve from whatever this thing is. It seems like this thing just comes and goes at random. Things have been chill for months. So one night, she's laying in bed, just scrolling on her phone through TikTok, and you know how it is when your eyes just start getting really heavy, and she's kind of falling asleep when suddenly it feels like her entire body just starts shaking. She has this cold chill run right down her back, and she feels like she needs to open her eyes again. And she's laying on her husband's side of the bed where she's been sleeping while he's been away, and as she turns over, she sees what looks like a woman in a long white dress with matted hair staring back at her. And it's like hovering in the air, staring at her, she says. And it had these like long talon claws. And she is completely terrified. It is dark in the room at this point. It's just like her and her cell phone. So she grabs her phone, turns on the flashlight. And of course, when she shines the light where she saw this woman, nothing's there. And she says this thing that almost seems like her protection mantra, which is, if you are not from the light, be gone from my sight. And it seems like this always gives her a little bit of peace. So she says it, and then she tries to go back to bed. Somehow she falls asleep, but of course, something wakes her up. This time, it's what sounds like somebody whispering. And so she opens her eyes, and on the side of the bed, crouching in front of her, is the woman in the long white dress with the matted hair. Except this time there were no like distinguishable features. She was just a silhouette. And this woman whispers, "Now you see me." And the woman who sent me this email literally grabs her iPhone and chucks it at this lady. Of course, doesn't hit anything. The phone just goes flying to the other side of the room. She was terrified. Did not sleep in her bedroom again after that. Decided to sleep in the living room. In the month that followed, a lot of weird things did happen, but nothing to that extent. And then what's really strange is that she ends off the email by saying that when her husband got back, they ended up separating. But what's interesting is since then, since she separated from her husband, nothing has happened ever again. She said, "I think whatever it was attached to my husband, not me or my children, and it didn't like how strong of a presence I made in his life. But who knows?" No matter what, I'm really thankful for this update, and it's just really weird because her husband was the one who saw what looked like her with long black hair, and then she sees this thing with like a long white dress and like matted hair. Was it this thing that was like attached to her husband, or so she thinks? I don't know. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think about this one, but so happy to finally have an end to this story. Stay spooky, friends.
Hey y'all, I'm a little freaked out right now. So I'm sitting here on the couch about to put a movie on, okay? My daughter is standing in the hallway and she looks in the kitchen, then me and her make eye contact, then she looks in the kitchen again. And I said, "What?" She tells me that she sees a black guy in the kitchen. The thing that comes to mind is stand up and go see what's in the kitchen, because why are you saying you see a black guy in the kitchen when the only people that are home right now are me and my 3 babies, okay? My husband is at work. I said, "What black guy?" But as I'm saying, "What black guy?" I'm getting up to go walk into the kitchen, right? I walk in the kitchen. I walk towards the basement. Nobody in there, right? Walk out the kitchen. I said, "Mama, what are you talking about?" And she starts like describing what she saw. Like she points out the height of it, and it wasn't that much taller than her. She says it's black. It has big red eyes. The mouth is open. And it has big black hands. So immediately after she says that, I become genuinely curious. I'm like, okay, is this like her making up stuff for her imagination? Because we all know kids have an amazing imagination, okay? So I'm asking her questions like, "Where'd you see that?" She points and says she saw it right next to the refrigerator. Okay, so where she was standing at in the hallway, from where she pointed where she saw it at the refrigerator, they would be standing like right across from each other, right? So I go in the kitchen, I take a look around again, just basically letting her know like, okay, mommy is looking around, mommy's not scared, like there's nothing to be scared of. I let her know that I don't see nothing in there. She's still talking about it. So I tell her, I'm like, okay, we're not going to talk about it no more. And I immediately start praying over the house. And I tell whatever this thing is, it's not welcome here. We're protected and we're covered by the blood of Jesus Christ himself. This is not that type of household, okay? This is really not that type of household. I don't do that scary shit. I don't do the ghost shit. I don't do the entity, the demon shit. I don't do none of that, okay? So after I do that, and I'm feeling better because I prayed, and I've told this thing that it's not welcome here. Even if it's just a part of her imagination, I feel better knowing that I did that. And then it shows her that, okay, mommy is not scared. Like, mommy is praying over the house. Like, I'm protected. Everything is safe. Everything is good. Here, sit down, and I'm finna scroll and find a movie like I was doing before. She comes back into the living room, and she says, "Mom, I don't think that thing is leaving." And I said, why did you say that? And she said, because when I was helping Gio's my son, she was like, when I was helping Gio get his fruit snacks out the pantry, he was standing there again. I don't think he left. Really, as she says that, I stand up because that's my first reaction, to go in there, look again, pray again. But then I'm getting like my hair on my freaking arms start standing up. Like I'm like, it's like everything, like I'm getting chills, like my heart is starting to race. I'm like, bro, what is going on? Like, it's to the point where I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, but I can't let her know that I feel uncomfortable, right? I'm like, okay, mama, show me where you saw him again. Like, show me where you saw him the second time. And she shows me, and apparently this time he was standing next to the basement, like the stairs to get to the basement. So I'm like, okay. And at this point, my curiosity is at an all-time high, okay? Like, I'm curious. I want to know everything. Like, so I start asking her questions. I'm like, describe him to me again. Where do you see him at? Do you see him when mommy and daddy are sleeping? Because she says it's a guy. So I'm like, do you see him when mommy and daddy are sleeping? Does he talk? Like, I need to know everything. She says he doesn't talk. Okay? So a couple minutes go by and I ask her again. I'm like, does he talk to you? Like, does he say anything to you? She said, Mom, I already told you he doesn't talk. But then I asked her, like, have you ever seen this thing, like in videos, movies, like something? Have you ever seen it, like in front of you, like in a video, a movie, like something? Because then if she tells me that she's seen it in like a video or movie, then I know that it's like, it's not here, you know? She tells me she's never seen it in a video or movie. I promise y'all, I've asked her that question like 6 times because I thought it would make me feel better, but every single time she says no, she hasn't. She only sees it here. Time goes on, and I'm just sitting there thinking about like, what other questions can I ask her so I can have more of the answers that I'm trying to get. My daughter is a little yapper, okay? She loves to come into the living room. She loves to just start random conversations. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like actively thinking about it, but I'm also trying to find a movie again, like I've been trying to do since the beginning of this. She comes in here, she's standing by the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is right here. And she's just like going on and on and on. She's talking about Santa, and then she starts talking about how there's like a black and red present. As soon as she says black and red, I'm automatically tuned in because the thing that she described was black and red. So I'm like, okay, let me listen, because if she's talking, like she's not talking to me. She's just like talking, like just yapping, like just letting her, like just talking, you know? So I'm just like listening. We're like, okay, I want this to be an active conversation. I want to have a conversation with her. So I joined in on a conversation. Out of nowhere, she's like, Mom, do you remember our old place? And I said, yeah. And she said, I like that place better because it's not haunted. Like, do you think this place is haunted? And she was like, it is haunted. And I was like, I'm also going to be telling my husband about this when he gets home, because I am genuinely freaked out, like goosebumps, chills, heart racing. Like, I'm not going to be calm until I tell him, until I get the answers I want, because this is the first time she's ever brought this to me. I'm freaked out, to say the least, okay?
You guys want to hear a scary story? It reminds me a lot of Insidious, but it's real. One time when I was babysitting these 2 girls, talked about them in a video before this. We were going to call the older one Luna and the younger one Aura. That's what I called them last time. I was babysitting, and the older one had an imaginary friend that she called Pete. I would always sense weird energy in this house. Disturbing, dark, like not good, friendly Casper the Ghost. And then one time, the oldest Luna at the time was, I want to say she was 3 or 4. And the baby, Aura, was like 6 months old. And I had put Aura down for bed. Put her in her little swaddle, got her all set up. She was snug as a bug, cute, perfect sleeping. And me and Luna were out in the living room because I was like, okay, we can play one game together, like before you go to sleep, because Aura obviously went to bed a little bit earlier. Then we pulled out like Candyland, some board game, which obviously she doesn't know how to play the ins and outs and the rules because she's 3. But when we were playing, she had another little character, and it was Pete's, right? And every time, I swear to God, I would look away, I'd look back and it would move, and she'd be like, oh, Pete moved it. And I'm like, okay, Luna, like, you obviously moved it, you know? Like, she's 3, and I know she's just like, you know, she doesn't know how to play the game. Now I know it was literally this dark spirit that was moving it, but stay with me. I'm like, okay, Luna, sure. And then out of nowhere, we're playing, and the TV was on in the background, excuse me. And Luna goes, I love this song. And I'm like listening. I'm like, what song, baby? Like, I don't hear any music. And she said, oh, the song that Pete is singing to me. She said, it's a song that my daddy plays on his guitar, because their dad played guitar, I guess. Like, I'd always see the guitar. Sometimes it'd be in the living room, or sometimes it'd be in the parents' room, like when I go in there to grab stuff for the kids. It was just like always propped against a wall. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, remember what we said about Pete? Because I told her I didn't want her talking to Pete, because again, this felt like a dark energy. And it sucked, because every time I was there, I felt like he was sitting in between me and her. Like, he was always, the spirit, Pete, was always hovering. It would never go away. So anyways, I'm like, what song? Blah, blah. And she's like, I'm trying to get her to describe to me again. She's 3. She doesn't really know how to describe it. And she says, no, Pete said he'll play for you. And I said, no, that's okay. want anything to do with it. She said, no, he'll play for you. Just hold on. So I ignore it and we start playing this game again. Just moving little pieces across the board. And all of a sudden I hear the strum of a guitar. Just a solo strum, like an off chord. And I just get chills down my back because at this time the guitar was in the parents' room. I only knew that, I hadn't gone in their room that time, but because I heard it and their door was shut. And Luna jumps up. She's like, oh, I told you, Riley, like I told you. Pete said he'd show you the song. It's my favorite song. And I'm terrified. Like I'm trying so hard to act cool. I don't know how this little girl is not so scared. But I'm just like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me just go look real quick because my immediate thought was like maybe somebody's in the house, like a real person, because that sounded way too real. It literally was just a strum of a guitar. So I go into the parents' room, I turn on all lights, the guitar is just sitting against the wall. Nobody's in the house. I do a sweep and I'm like really disturbed because every sweep I'm doing, I feel like something is just hovering and following me into every room I'm going into. So I finally sit back down with her. I'm like, okay, babe, let's watch like 10 more minutes of the show and then like we're gonna go to bed. When I sat on the couch with her, it was the first time I felt like not super heavy, overpowering energy. And I'm like, whew, okay, like, but anyways, I was like, okay, this feels a little less heavy. Sorry, my dog's drinking water in the background. She's so loud. So I'm like, okay, I can breathe a little bit. And I pick up the baby monitor right next to us. You guys know what's coming. You've seen the scary movies because it literally was just like that. Pick up the baby monitor to check on Aura and I literally gag when I think about this because it was so terrifying. I see a hand, right next to the baby. She's sleeping, she's swaddling, and it's a creepy hand where the nails are like this long and it's just this black shadowy hand just right next to her. And again, this is the first time I said I felt relieved, like I wasn't being followed. It's because it went in the other room. I freak out. I literally sprinted, ran, busted into Aura's room, woke her up because I came in the door so hot. She was crying and just felt that energy in that room was disgusting. I pick her up, I bring her back out to the living room. I'm like trying to explain to the parents when they come home, like they're gonna think I'm insane of why their kids are still awake. And I'm sitting on the couch with the baby and with Luna, and I forgot to turn off the baby monitor. And I literally hear just disembodied voices coming from the baby monitor. Terrifying, out of nowhere, loud. And I literally just shut the baby monitor off. And the baby ended up falling back asleep in my arms. Luna ended up falling back asleep and she like fell asleep on me, like her little head was on my shoulder when the parents came home. I was like, sorry, they're just like so sweet and they just want to sleep out here with me. Because I tried again to, like I've explained this in the other video, but I tried to kind of bring it up to them before, how like something I thought was going on in their house paranormal. And they looked at me like I was fucking insane. So I knew I wasn't getting anywhere with that. But that was also one of the terrifying times I experienced babysitting for those kids.
Let's read another scary story that was DM'd to us. A few years ago, we lived in South Africa. We moved into a new house and everything felt normal for a few months. But after a few months, weird stuff started going on. Like, our stuff would start going missing. We didn't think much of it at all. I started getting sick a lot and I would be tired a lot and throwing up a lot. We had load shedding and my sister's friend said she wanted to come over. My parents were outside busy with food and we went in to get changed, and while we were getting ready, we heard something in the closet. We didn't really think much of it, but after that, a lot of weird stuff started happening, like when my brother's friend came over for a sleepover. Me and my sister were watching a movie and we heard screaming coming from the kitchen. We tried opening the door, but it didn't want to open. A few minutes later, we finally got it to open and my brother and his friend were crying with a small mark around their necks. But everyone thought we were making this up. Until things got really bad. Me and my brother shared a small room and my older sister had her own room. She came to sleep in my bed every night because she said she felt unsafe whenever she would wake up in the middle of the night. When we would wake up in the middle of the night, it felt like someone was staring at us, and our Bible would just close on its own. We had it open on our page that we felt safe with. After we thought things got better and invited one of my friends over, we watched a movie until we fell asleep. At 3 a.m., she started yelling and crying that she wanted to go home. It looked like she was really scared. My mom would feel someone get in her bed while no one was at home except her. One night, me and my sister decided that we were going to sleep in her room, thinking maybe it would be okay in there. Above her bed, she had some lights, and while I was trying to sleep, I heard someone breathing in my ear, and I started screaming. My grandma came in and said it's nothing, but after she went away, it happened again, and I slowly woke my sister up, but I told her to move to the other side of the bed. But when she moved, every light in the room started flickering, and suddenly she was against the wall and screamed. I went under the covers crying and screaming. My dad came running in, and while screaming lines from the Bible, my dad and I closed the door, and as we walked back to my parents' room, we heard scratching coming from my sister's room. And my sister told my dad that she saw what looked like a woman in a wedding dress, and there was blood on her gown, and her teeth were showing, and there was blood dripping everywhere. And the thing is, we didn't even watch horror movies back then, so my parents knew we were telling the truth. After that, the door stayed closed, and every time we would walk past the door, it felt like someone was looking at us. My sister went to stay with my grandma and grandpa, and after that, we moved away from the house. We went back after 1 year and talked to the family who was living there, and they had a baby, and the woman said her baby would have marks all over her body. And her other daughter was living in my sister's old room, and she said that her daughter didn't even want to go in there. Whatever was in that house, I hope I never experience again. It is freaking creepy, and I think that house just needs to be torn down, probably.
Gonna want to listen to this story, but trigger warning, I advise do not watch this in the dark or at night or sitting alone in your bed, because it will freak the shit out of you. This man goes to sleep with his wife and they're sleeping in bed, and around 3 o'clock in the morning he was woken up to this noise, and it sounded like the front door, like somebody was trying to like scruff or trying to get in through the front door. It has one of these front doors, when the door shuts it automatically locks and you have to have the keys to get back in the house. I actually have a front door just like this. So the first thing he does, he gets his phone and he opens the Ring doorbell app. And when he's looking at the camera in the app, he sees his wife is outside and at this point it was 3 o'clock in the morning, it was freezing cold, and she was standing there shivering, trying to get in the house. But his wife is laying next to him. So he turns over to this person who is laying in bed with him, and he shines a torch on her. And it is his wife. His wife is actually there and she's sleeping. She's fast asleep and she's fine. He checks the Ring doorbell app again and he's so confused because this woman looks just like his wife, but it's not his wife because his wife is laying next to him in bed. So as he approached the front door, and at this point he's thinking maybe it's a burglar or maybe it's somebody pretending to be his wife to trick him so they can get in the house. He does not open the door, but he shouts out, "Who is it? Who's there?" And this woman replied, "It's me. I've left my keys in my bag and I can't get in. It's freezing. Can you please open the door and let me in?" He froze because this woman sounded just like his wife. The exact same accent, same annotation. This woman literally was a photocopy of his wife. He replies, "Hold on a minute," and dashes back to his bedroom. To his wife? He shakes his wife awake, and of course when she wakes up she's really groggy, she's really tired, and he's like, "You need to see this." Shows her the Ring doorbell and this woman standing out there, and she's like, "Oh, when was this recorded?" He's like, "No, this video is a live video. This is happening right now." Explaining to her, he just spoke to this woman who looks and sounds exactly like her, his wife, and she said to him that she wants to come inside and she's freezing and that she just forgot her keys in her bag. So she ends up going downstairs. She's tired, she's pissed, she does not believe him. She opens the curtains and immediately shuts them as fast as she could because she's like, "What the hell? That is me." Both look at each other and they decide to speak to this woman outside. So the husband calls out, "What's your name?" And this woman outside replied with his wife's full name, including her middle name. He then asks, "What's your birthday?" And she gets it correct. He then even asked, "What do we have for dinner tonight?" And she replied what they had for dinner, plus saying that he cooked it, which was true. So the wife inside the house at this point is trying to control herself. She is freaking out, and the husband reaches over to her and says, "Ask it something only you would know." She's there thinking, what can I ask her? What can I ask her on the spot? Something that only she supposedly would know. Ask this woman outside, the last time you went to your parents' house, what was the thing they changed about your bedroom? There was a long pause, and the wife outside then goes, "Who is that? Is there someone else with you? Who's that there speaking?" She goes, "You're starting to freak me out. What is going on? Why are you not letting me inside?" At this point, the fake wife outside realizes she's actually speaking to the real wife inside. The husband and wife at this point are just like, "Answer the question, answer the damn question." And after another long pause, she answers the question. and correctly. The wife inside is absolutely terrified because only she is supposed to know about this. So she grabs her husband's hand and they run upstairs to go back to their bedroom and they lock themselves in the bedroom. They pull out the Ring doorbell app and they watch this woman outside that looks just like the wife walk off in the backyard, and they presume she's off to find the spare key. They're truly convinced at this point, if this woman knows all these personal questions about them, she will know where the spare key is. That's the story. It is terrifying, and it's so terrifying because I have a feeling that this was a jinn pretending to be the wife, but this jinn must have been watching them and must have been hanging around them for a long time, which is just terrifying to think. It is so scary. But let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think happened. If you think it must have been just a stranger that was pretending to be the wife trying to get in, or if you think it was some sort of paranormal activity.
This young boy used lip gloss to initiate girls in his school. Guys, don't mind the tears because this story is like wild. I don't know who narrated this story, but it's this other person. Honestly, kids who live in the suburbs are very privileged because there's not a lot of witchcraft in the suburbs, but in like townships and rural areas, guys, the witchcraft is on another level. And sorry if this story is like all over the place. I don't quite remember it. I just remembered it now, and I really wanted to share with you guys that you should be prayerful as a student because there are people who are evil. There are people who are initiated in schools and you do not know that. There are people whose parents use their kids to initiate other learners in the school. But regardless of that, let's get into the story. I don't know how long this is gonna be. It's a school, right? So there's this guy whose parents are witches, and I'm talking about high-level witches like labona bonga kaba, hey, you know, like the top, like, you know, those people where politicians go to win their elections, those type of, I don't want to say sangoma but those type of witches and what those are the higher ranking. So that child is a child of those higher ranking people. So it's this thing that parents send this child to go do whatever to the children and whatnot. So when came a time where like a lot of manifestations were happening at the school. A lot of like girls would scream, like, you know, and a girl would manifest, and then the same day, the next day, another person will manifest. Like, if you don't know what manifesting is like, I don't wanna offend people, but yeah, let me not just say that. But when people manifest, it's like a spirit, a demonic spirit is manifesting. So it's then they scream, and you know, they sometimes talk to themselves and stuff. So that's what I mean by manifestations. So now in the school, there were different manifestations happening to a certain type of people or certain people in general. It came to the point where the principal brought in pastors. Like, you know, I'm talking about like men and women of God, those who do exorcism, like deliverance. Some people say deliverance, but it's actually exorcism. So those who perform exorcism, like, you know, to free and remove those demonic spirits that are attached to those learners. It got so bad that they had to call those pastors prophets or whatnot. I don't know who they were. Since these manifestations were taking place in a certain grade, they called everyone in that grade. So let's say if most of the manifestations were happening to like grade 11s, so then they called every grade 11 and every grade 12 and every grade 10, those above and under in that same grade. So they called all of them. They put them inside the hall. Then they started praying for everyone. So as they're praying for them, people are manifesting. People are being delivered. People are crying. Some people are trying to run out of the hall. They had to block out the doors. People, it was chaotic. You know, those who were manifesting, they wanted to leave. They're like, some people are screaming, I'm on fire, I'm in pain. Hey. Bianong, as those people were manifesting. They were saying, "Hey, Lola, yo." Those people were manifesting. It came to this boy. So when this boy, he doesn't move. Like, you know, those stubborn spirits. What's that? Oh, it's someone next door. So, you know, those stubborn spirits, those stubborn demonic spirits, or those stubborn witches that don't want to confess. You know, like if you have seen a deliverance, sorry about that, but if you have watched or seen a deliverance, you know how stubborn spirits and witches can be when they ask you, who are you? Hey, what do you want from this person, right? Sharp. So when this boy, he's like, but who are you? He's just like taking steps back, like he's like stubborn, like, you know, stubborn. There's no way I can explain this, but this person was stubborn. Yo guys, stubborn. As much as he was stubborn, he started confessing. He's like, I'm one of the master's people, and that master is in this room. Time! They're talking about the master who is in the hall. So they're like, who is he? Who is this master that you listen to, that you listen his commands to, or whatever? Piano, he's like shaking his head. I can't. They're going to kill me. Hey! In fact, they're forcing him, you know, and they're also praying. The other pastors, they're also praying. They're like, you know, they're praying. Like, who is it? You will show me who this person is, who is causing, like, disruption in this school. Who is he? He's saying, like, I can't. I'll rather point at him or show you him, but I can't say his name. Otherwise, they'll hurt me. They'll kill me. I can't. And, you know, this is serious because, like I said, that child master in the high school, their parents are high-level witches, warlocks, necromancers. Like, they're very dangerous, but not as powerful as the kingdom of Christ. But anyways, they're very high up there. So he was so scared that they were gonna kill him and what. So he's like, I'll rather point him to you, but I will not say his name. So he's walking. His eyes are closed. He's walking, but he can find his way to the master. Because don't forget, it's not the boy who's speaking, but whatever has manifested from him that's speaking. So when he walks, he then points to, hey! As soon as they point to that person, everyone was chaotic. Everyone was going crazy at the person who pointed the person. This is a very long story, but I'm summarizing to you guys. After that boy who manifested exposed the master of the school, they start questioning him and whatnot. And then, I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened. So they start, like, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing to the kids in the school? He's confessing that he initiated a lot of girls in that school through lip gloss. Guys, whatever you use at school, pray for it. People judge me. A lot of people judge me for praying over the stuff I use that I borrowed. But you can't get mad, because what if you're trying to do stuff to me? But regardless of that, they use lip gloss to initiate. That guy dated girls, and those girls would, after a few months of him dating them, and then the person who shared this story said that the reason why he wasn't killed, he wasn't initiated or forced into that cultish or what was because of his prayers and his mother's prayers. His family was prayerful to the point where that master could try and initiate anyone, but he couldn't initiate him. Mind you, that master used to sit next to that person in class. They used to share a table. It was so easy for him to get initiated, but because of the prayers his family had, kept him covered. He could not be touched. Moral of the story, please pray. Be prayerful. Whatever you do, whatever you borrow, whoever you talk to at school, please pray. You don't know. These people that you see that are kind and loving, they'll be the ones that will bewitch you. And you'll see yourself failing and stuff. But anyways, I've spoken enough.
Let me tell you guys a spooky story my aunt told me about her village in Guinea, located in West Africa. This story is about a young woman who wasn't what she seemed to be on the outside. My aunt said this lady was so beautiful and she always wore nice clothes. She was in her early 20s. She was just so quiet, respectful, like all the men wanted her, but she just wasn't married or anything, which was weird around that time because in your 20s, in Guinea around that time, everybody was married, but she wasn't. This lady wasn't really close to any of the other like 20-year-olds in the area or anything like that. So she wouldn't really go out, but she would only come out whenever someone just had a baby. Another thing is that she lived by herself, which was weird around that time. And she would say like her parents lived in another village or whatever, and that this was her dad's house. And she's just like taking care of things until they come back here. But like I said, she only came out when someone in the village had a new baby. And she would just come to greet the baby, say hi, bring some gifts, yada yada. But here's the thing. Every time she visited a baby, the baby would get sick the next day, literally. My aunt said this happened to like her neighbor's son, and then it was another baby located in the village. And then people in the town started whispering because it was like 3 kids now. Like, that's weird. So my aunt's family didn't really believe it. They just don't believe in like stuff like that. But my aunt believed it, and she was like terrified of the lady. But before, she was just like, oh, this lady's so beautiful, da da da. But now she was like scared because everyone in the village is just talking. So in the middle of this, my aunt's baby brother was like finally born, and the lady came to visit like she always does. And she was at the door. She was like, I came to like bless the baby, bring gifts, you know, what she's used to doing. And my aunt begged her parents like, don't let her in, don't let her in. Y'all are hearing all this stuff. And her parents were just like, no, like it's okay. We don't believe in that. Like that's not true. So they let the lady in, and literally that night, her little brother couldn't stop crying. He was hot. He wouldn't eat. Like, he was just, like, sick. So 2 days goes by, and the baby is still, like, sick, not eating, crying uncontrollably. Like, he's never acted like this before. So my aunt's parents called an elder from, like, another village. And when he came to see the baby, like, prayed over the baby, and he told them what happened to the baby. So in the morning, when the baby felt better and everything, the elder told the family it was a witch that was coming after the baby, and she came after the baby because she was hungry. A witch was trying to, like, take your baby, but not physically, but they do it, like, in another way, which is why the baby gets sick and all of this. The elder told my aunt's family that the person who did this is a witch, and that she looks young on the outside, but she has a very old spirit. So then my aunt's family finally clocks it. It was the girl that they let in, duh. My aunt was like so pissed that this happened to her baby brother. So she called up her friends, and they were like 12, like 13 at the time. And they made a plan to like go to the witch's house or whatever that day. So when they went there, it was nobody there. The place was empty, and they never seen that girl in the village again. And my aunt always says if someone is like super curious about your baby, always trust your gut because not everyone means well. If you want more stories, let me know. I have so many stories from my family, and I feel like we're all like intuitive. We like see stuff. It's crazy. So let me know if y'all want some stories.